My name's Jeremy Payne, for those people that don't already know me. I head up marketing and demand generation for Enghouse systems across Europe. I mean, what's been interesting really when you look back at 2020, it was a year of profound change, and it's not necessarily revolution, it was more really intensely compressed evolution. So lots of the things that happened, over the last 9 months were things that were already, that those trains had already left the station. But, I guess for a lot of businesses, 6 years worth of evolution got compressed into 6 months or even 6 weeks in some cases. And I think what's clear, as we're sort of sat here chatting now virtually, we're sat back down in like a bad version of a horror film, Lockdown 3. And what's clear is the way people are going to work will have changed forever. That's not to say nobody's ever going to go back to an office again. I think probably socially humans are sort of social animals, and we need to. And what's clear is there's certain gaps in the way people interact with each other virtually. There's, it's great that we can kind of do this, but there are definitely pieces that get missed that you can get a better interaction physically, but not everything needs to be physical. And I think many organisations are sat looking at that big empty office right now thinking, do we need this amount of floor space moving forward? And the floor space that we do need, how do we configure it to best serve our business and our employees? So I think this concept of hybrid working, where many people, particularly in the industry we're in around software and technology, there was already a bit of a work from home culture, but most people had a permanent desk in their office, and then might work from home on a Friday, or they might do calls and meetings on a Monday virtually or whatever. But most people's permanent base was an office. I think that will flip and rotate. So most people's permanent base will be their home, and they'll then be coming in the office for meetings, collaboration, and planning sessions, that type of thing. So I think the shape and nature of the office is going to change. The shape and nature of the way employees and companies use that space will change. And I think that's self-evident in, if you looked yesterday, a major story came out about the exodus of people living in London and the impact that's had on rents and commercial real estate prices, house prices. So, conversely, the Shire counties, places like Guildford and those counties that surround London have seen house price growth, and inversely, London's seen it shrinking, and the same with commercial space. So there's clearly a pattern here that isn't just, a temporary band-aid and a temporary fix on the situation. It looks like something that's going to be a lot more permanent. And I think many organisations were still probably this time last year sat having little bits of internal debates about their business and the cloud, how much of their business should be in the cloud, should they be in the cloud at all, if they should be in the cloud, what cloud, should it be a private cloud, should it be a public cloud, should they run their own cloud, all of those kind of questions. I think for many businesses, the question, should we be in the cloud, has sort of completely gone now. The answer is yes. And many businesses did a short-term quick fix through 2020 just to keep their business, moving and keep the wheels turning. And I think what you're starting to see now is a lot more strategic decisions happening around the choice of cloud and the types of technologies and the types of technology partners that the organisations are working with. And I know people like yourselves have deep experience with many a broad range of customers in that regard. And I think the advice that we would say to people is the cloud is a little bit like a bike chain, and your security and your operational efficiency is only ever going to be as good as the weakest link within that chain. And I think as many businesses scrambled last year to keep things turning, they used kind of quick fix technologies, sometimes kind of rolled their own in terms of internal IT spinning stuff up that kind of kept the plane in the air, but probably strategically isn't the right thing to do. So I think some of that is now getting picked through and unworked, and people are starting to come up with a more coherent cloud strategy. And then I think allied to that or underpinning that is unified communications. So, the UC market, saw exponential growth, and understandably last year. The fact that we're having this dialogue through video conferencing platforms, it is testament to the fact that so's the rest of the world. UC has helped kind of keep the wheels turning, and I think there's lots of indicators of that. Salesforce acquiring Slack is an example of their appetite to get involved in a different way within the cloud. They've been at the forefront of cloud-based applications for a while, but are now starting to move, more towards that UC space and place, and trying to occupy more of somebody's desktop and day. So I think you've got signals there. So Amazon up 30%, UC market expected to top something close to 200 billion by 2025. So these are the pieces of the puzzle, if you like, that glue it all together. I think one of the pieces, as a technology company, it's really easy to get excited about what the software can do, how it can all sit together, how you can drive better efficiencies, how you might be able to drive some cost saving. The piece that often gets missed out of this is the human sat in the middle of it all using this technology. And I think most people would, if they were completely honest, would say as they tipped into Christmas, were suffering, some form of, video conference burnout. I think most people have probably in the last 9 months done more, probably in the last 9 weeks done more video conferencing than they had in their previous lifetime. So, and it's tiring. There's a different way of communicating, different way of interacting. 90% of communication is non-verbal. That's much harder to pick up through a video conference, particularly if you've not got a great connectivity. So I think employees have had to get to use a lot of new systems. They felt probably like they're more isolated and kind of on their own. Those water cooler, coffee machine conversations have sort of disappeared. People's line between work life, home life, leisure time has all got very blurred. So people are probably, most people, I think, various studies point to most people working something like an hour and a half more per day. So actually an unexpected win for a lot of organisations was that productivity gain. I think that was a thing that held a lot of companies back from moving more to a work from home culture and policy. I think the next step is going to be, as the systems get sorted out and, a more kind of coherent and strategic structure gets put in place around, the core systems that organisations use and their cloud strategy. In parallel, I think you will start to see certainly more of the forward-thinking, smarter HR departments starting to think about employee welfare and employee well-being. And I think one of the things, coming back to your original question, how is this all impacting customer experience, customer service? What's clear is lots of those trains that had already left the station but now got accelerated are going to have an accelerated effect on the roles that people do within the customer service environment and the skills that they need and the way that companies contract with them. So, by that, if you think about, AI and chatbots and voice-based interaction, voice-based IVR, all of those kind of things, most organisations were already doing something around that or are certainly looking into it. That has accelerated. The cloud has accelerated. So what that cascades down into is that all of the routine stuff, the simple, easy, quick fix stuff in terms of customer service interactions will be handled through AI, a bot, web self-service, social service, going onto Google, going onto Facebook, Twitter, going onto a user forum. That stuff will get fixed without really the need for that much intervention from the selling organisation. But conversely, what that means is the stuff that's left is awkward, ugly, complex, and that needs different skill sets. It needs skill sets that don't just sit in the head of one person. It needs collaboration. So we're back to that conversation around, unified communication and collaboration tools. And so, I think what you're going to start to see is very deep defined skill sets, people that may have great negotiation skills. So if you think about the number of people that have had a holiday cancelled or have been given a voucher or they've lost money or, the amount of fairly awkward, ugly claims or interactions that travel companies are dealing with right now is an example. But if you think about the stress that was put under the courier and the delivery companies over Christmas period, delivering basically everyone's Christmas came through a UPS lorry or a courier company. So there's all sorts of complex stuff that needs those skill sets. And I think what you'll start to find is that organizations, larger organizations, will keep and have permanent employees that are just doing those deeper skill sets. Smaller organizations won't have the volume of work to employ someone 40 hours a week doing that. So they will then turn to the gig economy. And the gig economy is another characteristic was growing anyway. So it's another train that was left the station. But, when we say gig economy, people think about, Uber and Deliveroo and Just Eat and that type of thing. But actually, if you think about websites like Fiverr and Upwork, the gig economy is cascading into the professional world too. And so I think what you're going to start to see is more organizations have got their AI, their social self-service layer sorted to deal with the easy stuff. They've got, a smaller group of, what we might call conventional customer service agents. And then you've supplemented that with these deeper, more technical skill sets. And those skill sets may well come from the gig economy. And you may be working with someone who has great skills of negotiating, legal disputes or settlements with customers in the travel industry. But that person might work for 3 or 4 or 5 different travel companies, of which you are one. So I think that's really where the world of hybrid work is working from an office space point of view, from a system and technology point of view, from an employee welfare perspective, and also the kind of the shape and nature of the roles that the people will do. When we look at the technologies that are, put it this way, as a customer interaction management organization, the technologies that we see most interest around, people are looking to move their core customer interaction management platform, customer service contact center platform into the cloud. So that's kind of like the first big piece of the puzzle, that if you've got people working from home, you're going to need, they are going to need access to those core systems through the cloud. So I think, there's a lot of interest with that. There's a lot of interest around how does that interact with the UC platform. And different companies have gone in different directions with that. Some people have gone, Cisco, some people have gone Microsoft, some people have gone Slack, some people have gone Google. There's lots of ways you can go, and it really depends on, your organization and what you're trying to achieve and how strong your own IT department is. And then I think you start to get into the customer service piece, and you're then into how do we empower and enable customers to self-serve. So that sort of concept of social service. And so, user forums, posting videos on YouTube, posting stuff through Twitter, posting stuff on your own website, posting stuff in Facebook, all of that stuff that allows a customer, when they first kind of have got a problem and type those 3 or 4 words into Google, it allows them to find an answer really quickly, and thereby really deflects the call. They don't need to interact with you. They've got the answer they want. They can see how to solve their problem, and they solve it themselves. And I think organizations, supplementing that, have got this kind of concept of a crowdsourced advisor. So somebody who might be vetting and reading the posts that people were putting on a company's website or a company's user forum to make sure that they are valid and they're not defamatory or negative to the company or the brand in any way, and actually help future customers solve their problem. So I think you've got that kind of piece of the puzzle. We see a lot of people looking into quality management systems that support employees working remotely or working in a hybrid way. So, if you think about a classic contact center or customer interaction management environment, the old view of the world was, a bit like a football pitch with a 100 people sat in with a really small desk with a headset on, all doing basically the same thing. The world's kind of changed, but you still need a way of making sure that you've got the right workforce management, you've got the right skills and the people available to support your customers, and you've got that all mapped out and trended, so you know when the peaks and spikes are going to be, and you've got the right resource level there. You've got, supplementing that, technologies like real-time speech analytics. So the ability, if you think about, again, a contact center and an agent sat within a small team of, say, 6-8 people, he or she can overhear those kind of conversations and sense when one of their co-workers is getting stressed and jump into that call with them and listen to what the customer's saying and maybe take over the call. That's much harder to do when you're working remotely. So this sort of ability of, voice and screen recording, but also real-time speech analytics that can listen to the conversation happening in real time between an agent and a customer and pick up keywords, pick up the stress, pick up if the customer's starting to shout at the agent, and if it is, create an escalation trigger to a supervisor who may be sat in their home office somewhere else and pull them into the conversation virtually. So those kind of things, are all starting, to play out. And then I think, as we touched on at the start, that whole piece around AI and bots, many organisations now are really looking to, automate the mundane and get that off of the desk of the staff that they have. So, and there are, that's another whole kind of conversation in itself, but I think at a really high level, when you think about AI and bots, many organisations approach it thinking it's the silver bullet, it's going to solve all of their problems. And like most things in life, you get back what you put in. Our advice to people is we have a range of bots that do very defined specific tasks within the customer service environment. And what we would say to people is, you can also go down that AI road where you really can pull in that power of NLU and NLP and really use that processing power in a human-like way, but it takes a huge amount of time and money to train. And whilst there's loads of power around machine learning, the bottom line is it costs a lot to train those things. So as a starting point, you're probably better off, narrowing the scope of the bot down to a smaller number of things that are high volume, lower probably complexity, but that the bot can process with a high degree of accuracy in a really quick and efficient way and cost-effective way. And use that as the starting point, then add another bot, then increase the skill set, and slowly but surely as you learn, your bot will learn. The mistake is to jump in too deep too quick and spend a lot of money and not get the result that you want.